All right, let's jump right in. Today, we are tackling a true classic, Think and Grow Rich. It's been a bestseller for ages and for good reason, but I have to admit, it's a bit of a beast to get through.
Yeah, it's definitely a dense read,
Yeah,
but it's packed with so much good stuff, so many insights.
exactly. So that's what we're doing here, saving up the best of Think and Grow Rich. Kind of like a shot of wisdom ready to go. Now, one thing the book keeps hinting at is this big secret to wealth. What do you make of that? Is it some magical formula they're hiding?
Well, not a formula exactly, but I think it is a powerful truth, kind of a universal one. You absolutely need that burning desire for what you want. And I don't mean just kind of wanting it. I mean a real fire in your belly kind of desire.
And Hill gives us some pretty intense stories to get that across, right?
Absolutely. Like the story of Edwin Barnes. This guy was dead set on working with Thomas Edison, so much so that he basically willed it into being. He didn't just dream about it, that burning desire fueled everything he did.
Wow, talk about laser focus. It's like he decided this is happening no matter what.
Right. And Hill suggests that kind of energy, that's what attracts success. He takes it even further with this idea of a mastermind, surrounding yourself with brilliant minds to kind of amplify your own abilities.
Okay, so you've got this intense drive, you're putting together your A team. What's the next step?
It's time to burn the ships.
Yeah.
No more hesitation. It means going all in on your goal, 100%, no safety net, no plan B. Remember that story about the merchant after the Great Chicago Fire?
Wait, are you talking about Marshall Field, the guy who rebuilt after that devastating fire and created that iconic department store?
Yes, exactly. Everyone else saw those ashes. They just saw despair, but not Field. He saw opportunity, a chance to rebuild even bigger and better. That's the power of commitment, unshakable commitment, even when things fall apart.
That's incredible. But let's be real for a second, silencing that inner doubt, that's got to be one of the toughest things.
Oh, absolutely. And Think and Grow Rich doesn't sugarcoat the fear factor. Hill straight up calls fear the ultimate dream killer. That fear of what others think, the fear of failing before we even begin. We've got to push past it. Trust in our vision, even when nobody else gets it.
So he's not saying successful people are fearless, right? It's more like they've figured out how to work through that fear.
Exactly. Think about Thomas Edison. Thousands of attempts to get the light bulb right. Or Henry Ford with the V8 engine. Everybody, and I mean everybody, told him it was impossible. But did he stop? No way. He had that unwavering faith, that refusal to let fear call the shots. And, well, you know the rest.
It's interesting how much weight he puts on this idea of faith. It's more than just positive thinking, though, isn't it? It's a deep down core belief.
Right. In Think and Grow Rich, faith is this dynamic force. It's about truly believing in your ability to reach your goals no matter what. He even digs into this idea of autosuggestion, almost like you're hypnotizing yourself. You're constantly feeding your mind these affirmations, painting a picture of the reality you want. And eventually, your subconscious, it starts to believe it, even if you didn't at the beginning.
Hold on, are you saying we're kind of tricking our brains into believing these dreams are possible?
In a way, yeah. Hill believed it was all about rewiring our subconscious for success. And, he has this amazing story about his son, Blair, that really highlights this.
Oh, right. Blair, who was born deaf. That story is such a powerful example of what belief can do.
Absolutely. But Hill reminds us that even the strongest belief, or faith, as he calls it, needs fuel to become something real, something tangible. And that fuel, he says, is specialized knowledge.
Okay, so let's talk about this knowledge piece. Does that mean we all need to become like experts in something to be successful?
Not quite. It's not about becoming a walking encyclopedia or anything. What Hill means is acquiring the right kind of knowledge, the knowledge that directly relates to what you want to achieve.
So it's more about being choosy with what we learn, not just passively absorbing information, but really focusing on what moves us forward.
Exactly. Hill was all about taking action. He even said, and I love this quote, "Knowledge is only potential power." You can read every book under the sun, but if you don't actually use that knowledge, if you don't put it into practice, it's basically useless.
It's like having all the ingredients for a cake, but never actually baking it. What's the point?
Now you're getting it. And just like a good cake needs a good recipe, Hill believed our actions, they need a plan, a solid roadmap. Wants to map out exactly how we'll get from point A to point B, step by step. No more flying by the seat of our pants.
Time to channel our inner strategist then.
Yes. And remember that mastermind we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
This is where that dream team really comes in handy. Bouncing those ideas around, fine-tuning that plan, keeping each other accountable, It all helps turn those dreams into reality.
Right, because even the best bakers in the world, they can always use a little feedback. A little support goes a long way.
Couldn't agree more. And think about Henry Ford. He revolutionized the car industry. And did you know he never even finished high school? Or Thomas Edison. Minimal formal education, but he changed the world with his inventions. They were hungry for knowledge, sure, but what really set them apart was their relentless pursuit of their goals. They knew how to take that knowledge and make it work for them.
It's like that old saying, you don't have to be a genius to be successful, you just have to know a few.
Huh? There you go. Hill actually shares this story about a woman who went above and beyond to help her son land a particular job. She did tons of research, put together this incredible plan book. She was basically his own personal PR team. And guess what? It worked. Her son got the job, and it was all because she understood that a well-organized plan backed by the right knowledge, that's where the magic happens.
Okay, so we've got the desire, the belief, the knowledge, the plan. Are we on the road to riches yet? Or is there something else standing in our way?
Well, this wouldn't be a true deep dive into Think and Grow Rich if we didn't talk about the 6 ghosts of fear.
Ghosts, huh? Sounds a little spooky for a self-help book, don't you think?
He's definitely playing on our emotions a bit there, but he's making a really important point. He's saying that fear, a lot of times, it's the root cause of indecision. It's that feeling of being stuck, paralyzed, and it keeps us from taking the actions we need to take to get what we want.
Okay, so what are these 6 fears Hill wants us to watch out for?
He breaks them down as the fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, of ill health, of losing love, of growing old, and finally, the fear of death. Those are some heavy hitters, right? They can really hold us back if we let them.
No doubt about it. Those are fears that resonate with pretty much everyone on some level. So what does Hill suggest we do about it? How do we even begin to face these fears head on?
You ready for this? His advice is surprisingly simple. Make a decision. He argues that fear, it thrives in that space of not knowing, of going back and forth, of uncertainty. That's where fear gets its power. But when we make a choice, any choice really, we step out of that fog of fear and into action.
So it's not necessarily about always making the right decision, but more about making a decision and moving forward.
You got it. He even uses this incredibly powerful example, a death row inmate who finds peace by accepting his fate. It wasn't that he wanted to die, but by accepting the situation, he was able to move past the fear that was paralyzing him. Wow, that really makes you think. It shows how sometimes making a decision, choosing a path, even if it's hard, can be more freeing than staying stuck in that fear of the unknown.
Exactly. And remember, Hill is all about taking the reins, controlling our minds, and creating our own realities. He doesn't just leave us hanging with a list of fears, he gives us tools to combat them. One of the most powerful, self-reflection. At the end of chapter 15, there's a whole list of questions he wants us to ask ourselves. It's like holding up a mirror and really confronting our deepest fears and weaknesses.
He doesn't let us off easy, does he?
Not a chance. But that's the beauty of Think and Grow Rich. It's a guide to change, and change takes effort. It's not passive. It requires us to dig deep and put in the work.
It's a good reminder that nothing magical happens in our comfort zones, right? We have to be willing to stretch and grow. One thing that really struck me when I was rereading the book was how Hill talks about America. He uses this analogy of a simple breakfast in New York City to illustrate this idea of America as a land of opportunity, almost like a modern-day gold rush. Oh yes, that's one of my favorites. He breaks down all the steps involved in getting that breakfast to your table, the farmers, the factories, the transportation systems, the people who prepared and served it. It's incredible when you think about it, all those moving parts, all those people working together, all made possible by organization and a system that supports that.
And it's not just about the logistics of it all, right? It's about recognizing that immense collaborative effort, that intricate system that allows us to enjoy an abundance that so many people take for granted.
You hit the nail on the head. He even points out that often the same people who criticize the system are the ones who built it. The same system that gives us the freedom to chase our dreams, to pursue those burning desires. It's definitely something to think about.
It really is. It's a reminder to be aware of those complexities, to appreciate the good that comes from that system.
Exactly. And, that example, it circles back to the core of Think and Grow Rich. Individuals, each with their own talents and ambitions, can accomplish amazing things when they work together within a system that supports those goals. It's like the mastermind principle, but on a much larger scale.
That's a great point. And it reminds me of something else he talks about, the power of having a vision. He even compares the Founding Fathers to a mastermind group. They had this unwavering belief in a free and independent America, and they were willing to risk everything to turn that vision into reality.
That unwavering faith, that burning desire to create something new, that's what built this country.
It's truly inspiring. It shows that even the biggest, most ambitious dreams, they can come true with enough belief, determination, and action.
Absolutely. So as we start to wrap up our deep dive into Think and Grow Rich, the big question Hill leaves us with is this. What impossible dream are you ready to fight for? Think about it.
That's a powerful question, and one that I hope our listeners will really take to heart. So there you have it, a whirlwind tour through some of the most powerful ideas from Think and Grow Rich.
It's a truly remarkable story.
Yeah.
But Hill reminds us that belief, or faith as he calls it, it needs something else to make it real, to turn it into something you can actually hold in your hand. And that's where specialized knowledge comes in.
Okay, so let's dig into that knowledge piece a bit. Does Hill mean that we all need to become like experts in something to be successful?
Not exactly. It's not about becoming like a walking dictionary or anything. It's more about finding the right knowledge, the knowledge that directly relates to your specific goals.
So being strategic about our learning, we can't just passively take in information. We have to really zero in on what will actually help us move forward.
Yes, exactly. Hill was a huge believer in taking action. He even said, and I love this quote, "Knowledge is only potential power." Think about that for a second. You can read every single book out there, but if you don't use that knowledge, if you don't put it into practice, what's the point?
It's like having a pantry full of ingredients but never actually cooking anything. What good is it?
Perfect analogy. And just like a recipe guides us when we're baking, Hill believed our actions, they need a plan, it's a clear roadmap to follow. He wanted us to get super clear, super specific on how we'll achieve those big goals step by step.
So we have to become strategists as much as anything else.
Precisely. And this is where that mastermind idea comes back into play. Remember that? Bouncing ideas around with your A-team, tweaking that plan, holding each other accountable. It's all part of the process of turning dreams into reality.
Right, because even the best bakers in the world can use a second opinion on a recipe. Support makes a difference.
100%. And let's not forget about Henry Ford. This guy revolutionized the car industry, right? But guess what? He never even finished high school.
Yeah.
And Thomas Edison, minimal formal education, but he changed the world with his inventions. They were hungry for knowledge, no doubt, but it was their drive, their relentless pursuit of their goals that really set them apart. They knew how to take knowledge and turn it into something real, something tangible.
It's like they say, you don't have to be a genius to be successful. You just have to know a few.
Love it. Hill actually talks about this woman who went above and beyond to help her son get a specific job. She did all this research, put together this incredible plan book, basically became his own personal PR team. The best part, it worked. She understood that a well-organized plan paired with the right knowledge, that's a recipe for success.
Okay, so we've got the desire, the belief, the knowledge, the plan. Are we on the road to riches yet? Anything else we need to watch out for?
Well, it wouldn't be a deep dive into Think and Grow Rich if we didn't talk about the 6 ghosts of fear.
Ghosts. Sounds a little spooky for a self-help book, don't you think?
I know, right? He's definitely trying to get our attention, but he's making a crucial point. He's saying that fear, often it's the root of all those times we can't seem to make a decision. That feeling of being frozen, stuck in your own head, unable to move forward? That's fear calling the shots.
Okay, so tell us, what are these 6 fears we should be on the lookout for?
He lays them out pretty clearly.
Yeah.
The fear of poverty, of being criticized, of getting sick, of losing love, of getting older, and finally, the fear of death. Those are some big ones, right? Heavy stuff. And they can definitely hold us back in life if we let them. They are. Those are fears that I think just about anyone can relate to on some level.
Absolutely. So what are we supposed to do about it? How do we even begin to tackle those kinds of fears head on?
Well, believe it or not, Hill's advice is pretty straightforward. Ready for it. Make a decision. That's it. He says fear, it thrives in that space of uncertainty. When we go back and forth, when we just can't seem to make up our minds, that's when fear takes over. But when we choose a path, any path, we take a step out of that fog of fear and into action.
So it's not even necessarily about making the right decision, but about making a decision and then taking that next step.
You nailed it. He even tells this really powerful story about a death row inmate who finds peace by simply accepting his situation. It's not that he wanted to die, But by accepting what was happening, he found a way to move past that crippling fear.
Wow, that really puts things in perspective. It shows how sometimes just the act of deciding, choosing a direction, even if it's a tough one, can be more freeing than being paralyzed by the fear of the unknown.
Right. And if you remember, one of the big takeaways from Hill is this idea that we have the power to shape our own realities. He doesn't just point out these fears and leave us hanging. He gives us tools to deal with them. And one of the most powerful ones, self-reflection. At the end of chapter 15, he has this whole list of questions he wants us to ask ourselves. It's about being brutally honest with ourselves, really taking a hard look in the mirror and confronting our deepest fears and weaknesses.
He's not afraid to challenge us, is he?
Not at all. But that's what I appreciate about Think and Grow Rich. It's not just a feel-good book. It's a call to action. It's about recognizing that real change, it takes effort. We have to be willing to roll up our sleeves and do the work.
It's a good reminder that nothing really worthwhile comes easy. It takes dedication. When I was revisiting the book, one thing that really struck me was how Hill uses this analogy of a simple breakfast in New York City to illustrate the idea of America as a land of opportunity, kind of like a modern-day gold rush.
Oh, yeah. I love that part. It's amazing when you really think about it, right? All the steps involved in getting that breakfast to your table. The farmers, the factories, the trucks and trains, the people who prepared it, served it, all of it. All these moving parts, all these people working together, it's all made possible by some level of organization, by a system that makes it all happen.
It's easy to take for granted, right? All that goes on behind the scenes so we can have that abundance.
Exactly. And it's interesting because he even points out that sometimes the same people who criticize the system are the very ones who helped build it in the first place. The same system that gives us the freedom to chase those big dreams, to pursue those burning desires. It's definitely something to ponder.
No doubt. It reminds us to look at the big picture, to appreciate those complexities, and recognize the good that comes from a system that, while not perfect, has led to incredible innovation and opportunity.
I completely agree. And that example, it ties back so beautifully to the heart of Think and Grow Rich, doesn't it? It's that idea that when people come together, each with their own unique skills and ambitions, and they work within a system that supports those aspirations, they can achieve amazing things. It's like the mastermind principle playing out on a much grander scale.
What a great point. And it makes me think of something else. Hill talks about the power of having a clear vision. He compares the Founding Fathers to a mastermind group, highlighting their unshakable belief in the idea of a free and independent America. They had this bold vision, this unwavering belief in its potential, and they were willing to risk it all to turn that vision into reality.
And that unwavering faith, that burning desire to create something new, that's what built this country brick by brick.
It's pretty amazing. It shows that even the most audacious dreams, the ones that seem impossible, they can be achieved with enough belief, determination, and action.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Think and Grow Rich, the question Hill leaves us with is this: what impossible dream are you ready to fight for?
That's a powerful question, and one that I hope our listeners will really take to heart. So there you have it, a deep dive into Think and Grow Rich. We hope this episode has provided some actionable insights and, most importantly, ignited that spark of burning desire within you. Remember, the power to achieve your dreams lies within each and every one of us. It's time to think big, take action, and create the life you've always imagined.